Imagine sitting at your breakfast table, a food so ordinary, so familiar, resting quietly on your plate. You've eaten it for decades without a second thought, trusting it as part of your daily routine. But what if I told you that this very food could silently raise your risk of a devastating stroke by 79% after the age of 60? Yes, nearly doubling your chance of one of the most frightening medical emergencies a man can face. Now, I want you to pause for a moment and picture this. You wake up feeling fine. You make your morning coffee. Maybe you even plan a walk for later. Suddenly, without warning, your vision blurs, your speech slurs, your arm feels weak, and within minutes, the life you've carefully built is hanging in the balance. A stroke doesn't just attack the body. It robs independence, dignity, and the very essence of manhood. And the cruelest part? For so many men above 60, the trigger isn't an accident of fate. It can come from something as simple as what you put in your mouth every morning. I speak to you not only as a physician, but as someone who has sat with countless men in hospital rooms, holding their hand as they tried desperately to understand what had happened. Men who once felt strong, capable, and full of vitality, now staring at me with fear in their eyes, realizing that one wrong choice, repeated day after day, brought them to this moment. Some recover partially, others live the rest of their lives struggling to speak or walk, and a heartbreaking number never make it back home. But here's the shocking truth. The risk is not always inevitable. Much of it can be controlled, reduced, and even prevented. And it starts with knowledge. Knowing which foods fuel your body with strength, and which foods quietly poison your circulation, clogging your arteries, weakening your heart, and setting the stage for disaster. Most men ignore these warnings until it is too late. They think, "It won't happen to me," or "I feel fine." Yet statistics don't lie. Once you pass 60, your body becomes far less forgiving. What once seemed harmless in your 40s can now be lethal. And the most dangerous part? This food I'm about to expose is so common that you probably have it in your kitchen right now. Stay with me because in the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal what it is, why it poses such a threat, and what healthier alternatives you can choose today to protect your brain, your heart, and your masculinity. Gentlemen, let me be absolutely clear. By the end of this video, you will know exactly which everyday food is silently raising your risk of stroke by up to 79% after the age of 60. But more importantly, you'll also learn what you can do today. Yes, starting with your very next meal, to drastically reduce that risk and protect not only your brain, but also your independence, your vitality, and your ability to live fully as the man you were meant to be. I want you to understand that this is not another vague health warning or a generic piece of advice you've already heard 100 times. What I'm about to share is rooted in clinical evidence, observations I've seen firsthand with patients, and research that most men are completely unaware of. And I promise you this, once you hear the name of this food, you will never look at it the same way again. But I will not just leave you with fear. My mission as your physician, your guide in this journey of aging with strength, is to equip you with real, practical solutions. I will reveal not only what you must avoid, but also which foods can shield your arteries, nourish your circulation, and keep your brain sharp well into your 70s, 80s, and beyond. You deserve to live those years with dignity, free from the chains of preventable disease. Now, I must warn you, at first you might resist what I'm going to say. Why? Because this food is a part of so many men's habits, traditions, and even memories. It shows up at family tables, holiday feasts, and quick breakfasts. For decades, clever marketing has convinced you that it belongs in every kitchen. But I'll show you the dark side, the part no commercial ever dares to mention. So here's my promise. Stay with me until the very end, and you will have in your hands the power of choice. You will know how to replace danger with strength, how to choose wisely without giving up the pleasure of eating, and how to live with the confidence that every bite you take supports your health, not sabotages it. This is not just about adding years to your life. It's about adding life to your years, clear speech, strong steps, steady hands, and a sharp mind that continues to lead, protect, and inspire your family. That is what I want for you. And that is why what I'm about to reveal matters more than you can imagine. Men over 60 often tell me the same thing. "Doctor, I still feel young inside. I don't think of myself as old." And I look into their eyes and I see the truth. They are still the same men who once carried heavy loads, built their careers, raised their families, and stood strong through life's battles. But here's the reality that we cannot ignore. The body after 60 does not forgive the way it once did. The same habits that seemed harmless in your 40s can become deadly traps in your 60s. I know this not only because I studied medicine for years, not only because I spent decades in hospitals and clinics, but because I have walked beside men just like you through their most vulnerable moments. I have seen the regret in their voices when they say, "If only I had known sooner, if only I had changed when I had the chance." And I refuse to let that be your story. I speak to you as a urologist, yes, but more than that, as a woman who has dedicated her life to men's health. I've treated men who once thought they were invincible, only to be humbled by the sudden blow of a stroke, a heart attack, or a diagnosis that could have been prevented. I've counseled families who stood at the bedside, tears in their eyes, watching a husband, a father, a grandfather lose his ability to speak, to walk, even to recognize the faces he loved most. But I've also seen the victories. I've watched men who listened, who made changes, who took my advice seriously, and because of that, they are still walking, still laughing, still holding the hands of their grandchildren today. Those are the moments that remind me why I do this, why I fight so hard to bring these warnings to you before it is too late. This is not about scaring you, it's about preparing you. It's about speaking plainly, with the compassion of someone who wants you to thrive, not just survive. Because I believe every man deserves to live his later years with pride, with strength, and with clarity of mind. And I want you to trust me when I say this. The food I'm about to expose is not just another item on a list. It is one of the most underestimated threats to men over 60. But once you know the truth, you will have the power to make choices that protect you instead of harm you. That is my role here, to guide you with honesty, experience, and care. As men cross the age of 60, their bodies begin to change in ways that cannot be ignored. The arteries, once flexible and resilient, begin to stiffen. The heart, which has beaten tirelessly for decades, now requires greater care to remain strong. Blood pressure rises more easily, circulation slows, and the brain becomes more vulnerable to sudden interruptions of blood flow. This is why strokes become far more common after 60, because the natural aging process, combined with years of dietary habits, creates the perfect storm inside the body. A stroke occurs when the blood supply to part of the brain is blocked or reduced. Imagine a river that suddenly dries up. The land around it dies. The same happens to your brain cells when blood flow stops, even for just a few minutes. Speech, movement, memory, independence. These can all vanish in a single devastating moment. And the cruel part is that most strokes are preventable. The body gives warnings, but too many men ignore them until it is too late. The food I am preparing to reveal plays a hidden role in this problem. It's not a poison in the traditional sense, but over time it acts like one. It clogs the arteries, raises blood pressure, and silently weakens the delicate balance your brain depends on. Men eat it without hesitation, never realizing the damage that is building year after year. And when the damage finally shows itself, it comes not as a gentle warning, but as a sudden blow that changes everything. I have seen this too many times. A man walks into my office feeling strong, only to return months later in a wheelchair, struggling to speak. His wife tells me, "Doctor, he was fine just yesterday." But in reality, his body had been preparing for that stroke for years, fueled by choices he didn't know were dangerous. Ignoring this problem is not an option. Once you cross 60, every decision you make about what you eat directly impacts how long you will stay independent, how long you will be able to walk without help, and how long you will remain the protector of your family instead of becoming the one who needs protection. And here lies the difficult truth. What you don't know can hurt you. That is why, in just a moment, I will expose the name of this food, and more importantly, explain exactly why it puts men like you at nearly 80% greater risk of suffering a stroke. Understanding the problem is the first step toward protecting yourself. Now it's time to talk about the real culprit, the food that men over 60 consume far too often without realizing its silent danger: processed red meats such as bacon, sausages, and ham. These foods, so common at breakfast tables and family gatherings, are packed with high levels of sodium, preservatives like nitrates, and saturated fats that attack your arteries day after day. When you eat processed meats, your blood pressure doesn't simply rise for a moment, it stays elevated over time. Your arteries become narrower, less elastic, and more prone to blockages. Studies have shown that men who consume these meats regularly face up to a 79% higher risk of stroke compared to those who keep them off their plates. And here's the painful irony. While many men believe they are treating themselves to something tasty, they are actually feeding the very condition that will steal their independence. I remember one patient, a man in his early 60s, who told me proudly that he had eaten bacon every morning for 40 years. "Doctor," he said with a smile, "I feel fine. I've never been sick." But one day, everything changed. He suffered a massive stroke, one that left him unable to speak clearly or use his right arm. His wife, holding back tears, asked me if his diet could have been the reason. And the truth was yes. What seemed harmless had been slowly poisoning him all along. But here's the part I want you to focus on. Knowledge is power, and change is possible. By reducing or eliminating processed meats and replacing them with healthier sources of protein like eggs, fish, beans, or lean cuts of fresh meat, you can protect your arteries and your brain. These alternatives not only nourish your muscles and testosterone, but also strengthen circulation, keeping you sharp and strong. And let's clear up a myth. Eating healthy does not mean giving up flavor. Seasoning fresh fish with olive oil and herbs, preparing a simple omelet with vegetables, or grilling lean chicken can bring just as much pleasure to the table without sabotaging your health. Food should give you energy and life, not steal it away. This is not about perfection, it's about choices. Every time you choose to skip bacon or sausage, you're choosing life, vitality, and more years of independence. Remember, prevention is always easier than recovery. The men who thrive into their 70s and 80s are not the ones who take the biggest risks with food. They are the ones who make small, wise decisions consistently. So now you know the truth. Processed meats, those strips of bacon, those slices of ham, those sausages you've trusted for years, are not harmless indulgences. They are silent killers, slowly increasing your risk of stroke by up to 79% after the age of 60. This is not an exaggeration. It is a fact grounded in science and proven through the stories of countless men who thought they were safe, until their bodies showed them otherwise. But here's what I want you to take away today. You have the power to choose differently, starting right now. The moment you decide to remove these processed meats from your diet, your body begins to thank you. Your arteries start to recover, your blood pressure steadies, and your brain is better protected from the devastating blow of a stroke. Imagine yourself not just surviving past 60, but thriving, walking confidently, speaking clearly, laughing with your grandchildren, living with the same sharpness and dignity that defined your younger years. That is not only possible, it is within your reach. I have guided many men who made this change, and I've seen how dramatically it transformed their health. One patient told me, "Doctor, I never thought I could give up bacon. But now, months later, I feel stronger. My energy is higher, and my wife tells me I even look younger." These are not miracles. They are the results of choosing life over habit, health over flavor that deceives. And this is my final message to you. Do not wait for a stroke to force you into change. Do not wait for the day you cannot walk unassisted, or when your words stumble out broken and confused. Prevention is the greatest gift you can give yourself and your family. Removing processed meats from your plate is one of the simplest yet most powerful steps you can take to protect your brain, your heart, and your manhood. As your doctor, as someone who deeply cares about your future, I urge you, start today. Share this knowledge with the men you care about. Protect yourself, protect your family, and prove that even after 60, you are still in control of your destiny. If this message has opened your eyes, leave your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what you will change starting today. And don't forget to join me in the next video, where I'll reveal another hidden factor that could be quietly robbing your strength as you age. Because together, we can fight back against the myths, the habits, and the silent killers, and keep you living strong, proud, and free.